Alright, so the first technique on our list is definitely pretty challenging, but does an insane job at piece controlling your opponent when done at the right time. In Fortnite, the typical player is usually only worried about getting piece controlled when reboxing to the side. This is the most common play, and reboxing downwards seems to be foolproof. What these players don't even realize is that we're already one step ahead of them. Alright, so this technique is going to fully piece control the box below the opponent, oftentimes leading to a free elimination. Alright, so this move only works when the opponent feels pressured into reboxing. Alright, just start by placing a cone below your feet, phasing a ramp in their box without breaking the wall. Next, edit the 2 front cone tiles to drop yourself down. Place a wall and floor as you fall and open a middle window edit. All that's left now is to box the entire tile in front of you. If done correctly, your opponent will edit downwards only to fall right into your box, giving you an easy kill. Alright, like I said before guys, this move is very difficult to pull off, but it can be absolute gold when implemented correctly. Practice the sequence in creative until you're ready to test your luck with it in game. Alright, so if you thought the last technique was difficult, don't worry. This next one is super simple, yet effective, meaning really anybody can do it. You know, ever since the World Cup era back in Chapter 1, players have been phasing in boxes using only a ramp behind their back. This play is still prevalent today and can be used to trick an opponent into giving up their wall. As you approach the opponent's box, place a ramp in front of a wall to make it seem like you're just gonna try to phase in. Position yourself under the ramp and get the wall to one hit. Instead of just jumping in guys, simply stay where you are and replace the wall with your own and just make an edit play. Since the typical ramp phase trick is so common, many players will hold their weapon out, waiting for you to enter the box. Since you're not actually phasing in, you can just stand back and wall replace them for free. You know, no matter what skill level you're on, man, you've definitely had those situations where an opponent is fully in your box and below your ramp. Even though you have control over every edit, I mean, it usually ends up being a 50-50 situation regardless, right? Although there's a few plays that could give you guys an advantage here, the technique we're gonna show you is definitely the best. Instead of just making a ramp edit and then shooting your opponent, make a corner edit on the left side of your box. As you exit, enter edit mode on the ramp and cut it in half. This is gonna give you a perfect peanut butter angle shot on your opponent to avoid you taking any trade damage. You know, although the technique isn't too mechanically advanced, it can be difficult to get the crosshair placement for the ramp edit down. Practice this in creative to just really work on your positioning and edit timing. Alright guys, so the next technique may seem straightforward, but it's still widely unused outside of the top competitive players. You know, when you make a regular pre-edit, every piece you place is going to have the same edit on it. In team modes, this can be used to make quick wall replaces to catch opposing teams off guard. Have the lowest ping player in your team make a wide open wall pre-edit. Approach an enemy's box and destroy the build while the pre-edit player is turbo building. Alright, so once the wall is replaced, there's going to be a clear opening for your team to enter and just outgun them. The opposing team will really have no chance to react and are only going to have to hope they can just out-aim or find safety. Alright, so this play should really only be performed in the end game where there's tons of commotion going on. Opposing teams oftentimes won't even hear this being done to them if you act quick enough. Alright guys, here we go. The next technique on our list is one of the most simple ways to retake height and go for piece control. The high wall 180 is one of the easiest yet most effective high wall variations as well. This move can be done at really any time and will often end fights in the matter of seconds. Alright, so start this move off by just scissor wrapping or just triple editing continuously away from your opponent. As soon as your bottom ramp sticks out further than your top, turbo build 2 walls as you jump 180 degrees around. Immediately after landing, jump and place a ramp below yourself to land on. In this, by just making a play on the opponent behind your high wall with a window edit full box or something similar, alright? This move is great as it really doesn't require many materials and it can be performed over and over again. Just make sure that you're only doing this when the opponent is directly behind you, or else you could be shot at pretty easily. Alright, bunch of questions on me. It's time for the question of the day. Here we go. What is your favorite edit to make when box fighting? Let us know down in the comments below. Replacing a wall with your own and editing onto an opponent is simple, yet the core of box fighting. You know, most players are going to approach this with a mongrel classic or a wide open edit cone play. While these do work, guys, like, they're not the most optimal strategies, right? Simply making a middle window edit and placing a cone is actually going to be the quickest and most protected method. When positioning yourself correctly, alright, the middle window cone play is going to give you a perfect right-hand peek to deal some devastating damage. After taking your initial shot, I mean, you can reset and make the same edit over and over again as you'll pretty much be protected. This move is especially great for you controller players out there as it requires very little joystick movement, giving you an easy shot to line up when completed. Let me ask you this, do you guys want to learn additional Alright, so if you've been playing Fortnite for some time now, you're more than likely able to do some basic side jumps. These are great, but it can be predicted by your opponent, causing you to get piece control. So to switch things up like every once in a while, just make a sharp change in direction backwards into another tile after you land. Direction changing side jumps is going to require some solid movement and muscle memory, but are definitely worth learning. This move started in creative, but it can definitely be implemented in an actual game as well. Just like the direction-changing side jumps, this technique uses a side jump to catch your opponent off guard. This move will take advantage of the mantle mechanic to keep your momentum from stalling. This move starts just like a side jump, except that your ramp is going to face the opposite direction it normally would. Start this move by just running into a left-hand side jump, and as you jump, turn around 180 degrees and catch yourself with the ramp. Immediately place a cone and mantle up. This move looks extremely confusing from the opponent's point of view, and it can be a great way to get some surprise damage dealt. And so after you get the initial technique down, try practicing some variations of the move in different directions with different sequences. Alright guys, for the next two techniques, we want to step away from building and talk about edit selection. Okay, so the top 6 tiles, edit is a great way to prevent your wall from being shot and replaced, as around 90% of the wall will disappear. This edit selection is going to be more challenging for you controller players out there, but it could definitely be done with some practice. Before you go for the edit, make sure that there's a cone at your feet. You're going to use this for protection later on. Start by selecting the middle left tile. Drag your crosshair to the right and select that whole middle row. Next, move up to the top row and select that row as well. Before confirming the edit, move backwards behind your cone and crouch down. This is going to provide a much safer angle for you guys to take your shot. Okay, so for the last technique of today's video, we're going to be covering another edit. This one is similar to the top 6 tile edit, as it can be difficult to pull off at first, but it's definitely worth learning. This edit will provide a small block for you to hide behind before taking your shot. Okay, so we suggest that you start by selecting the middle window tile. Next, use a counterclockwise motion to grab the bottom right row as well as the upper right corner. Finish by selecting the top left corner and confirm the edit. Alright guys, so make sure that you position yourself behind the remaining tiles when making this play, or you can be shot pretty easily. This edit is great, but using it too often against an opponent could get you predicted pretty easily. Well, Fortnite plays like any other battle royale in terms of objectives. You and 100 other players are going to be dropping on the island, and the last person standing is going to be the one that's going to take the victory crown. You know, it sounds simple enough, right? Well, with Fortnite, it gets a little bit more complicated than that, guys. Like, not only do you have the usual shrinking boundary that drives players towards each other as the match progresses, but you also have to gather building materials along the way to defend yourself against other players and win fights. With a third-person perspective and fast-paced gameplay, you're going to want to start training right away to master 3 things. All right, get this right now. It's your mechanics, your fighting skills, and your game sense. You're going to do this, man, and I'm telling you, you're going to be entering cash cuts before you know it. You know, mechanics are everything in Fortnite. I mean, if you're not building during a match, there's only so far you can go. You also need to understand aim as well as editing. Each of these skills greatly benefits from the others, and anyone that can master all 3 is going to go far. Don't rely, guys, solely on just strafing to avoid damage. Make a habit of placing a wall whenever you see yourself getting fired on. You know, one basic technique every player needs to know is boxing up. You know, by placing 4 walls and a floor above you, you can defend yourself from any direction. It also buys you time to heal and figure out your next move. Editing is important for more advanced techniques, such as opening up windows to land a shot, or just moving around during the end game. We're gonna get a little bit more into that a little later. If you guys look at the pros today, I mean, you're gonna see that a lot of them pull off insane edits during a match. They do this because it not only confuses their opponent, but it just gives them multiple options to attack, defend, and flee if necessary. And if you make a habit of building and editing during your fights, you're gonna have full control of the playing field, right? This is great for mastering piece control, which is a technique used by pros to trap their opponents for easier eliminations and make unexpected edits. Piece control is based on a basic rule of Fortnite. Your opponent cannot edit the builds or pieces you put down. So if you manage to place a box around them, you're gonna need to destroy it first before they can go anywhere. This restricts their movement, and if you guys play your edits right, it's gonna be like shooting fish in a barrel. All right, aiming is the next mechanic that you need to master to make everything work out. I mean, you could be the best builder and even create the best peaks and, you know, catch your opponents by surprise, but if you can't aim, I mean, you're never gonna get any eliminations and your career is just dead in the water. So you have to learn how each weapon in the current meta works. Does this work better long range, short range? Does it shoot fast? Is it slow? So just keep in mind that, you know, whenever you shoot, you're gonna most likely be facing off against moving targets. Not to mention, those targets might be building, so being able to land a good, accurate shot can be critical towards winning a fight. All right, so the best place to train your mechanics is on creative. Start by just getting used to the controls, especially the keybinds for building. Tinker with your settings to get the right controls for you, and just make sure that you start developing muscle memory through repetition. Then work your way up to live opponents through 1v1s and zone wars. And you're gonna be able to jump right into the action without having to bump into opponents in a normal match. All right, bunch of course, it's time for the question of the day. You guys ready for this? Here we go. What makes you want to be a pro gamer? You know, any players that got you invested in the game? Put your answers in the comment section below. We'll definitely check it out. All right, so now we come to the skill that needs to be learned, relearned, and just kept updated all the time. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about game sense. You know, unlike your mechanics, you can't train this on creative. Game sense is knowing what to expect around every corner where items spawn, as well as the meta that is currently circulating. Every time you land in a game of Fortnite, you're learning. All right, so why did you choose this drop spot? Did you arrive first, or did others land before you? How many chests are nearby? Where did you go next, and how do you get there? This is just all part of the game, and this is all part of game sense that you can learn by just keeping up to date with, what other players are doing, as well as just diving headfirst into a match. A player with good game sense is gonna make it very far because they can make the right choices most of the time on what to do next. So if you know a landing spot is going to be full of players, then you might choose somewhere less, cluttered, so you can just get geared up and just be ready to take on any threat that might pop up. While it might seem like more players mean more kills, I get it, you must keep in mind that in competitive, the worst thing that you can do is just die off spawn. And then you don't get a chance to really play that round. All right, so learn what each landing spot has to offer and just take advantage of loot maps, guys. You can find these anywhere people discuss competitive Fortnite. Rotation options are also important. Once you're done looting your landing spot, you're gonna wanna check your map and just see where the storm is headed next. Don't let yourself get lost in the storm, though. Choose your next location, and if you learn the map by heart, you're gonna know what other unnamed POI and looting options you're gonna stumble across. One good way to really learn these skills is really by watching what other pros do. Pros spend their time studying the game inside and out, and it's gonna usually have, some of the best strategies based on the current meta. So ask yourself this: why do they do what they do? Whether it be landing or fighting or rotating and choosing equipment, there's always a reason behind the choices they make. Okay, so there are 3 stages to any Fortnite game, and understanding each of them is going to help you guys get a better idea of what you're supposed to be doing during each one. You're going to have early game and mid games and late games. So during early game, you're going to focus on choosing your drop spot, landing, looting, and just fighting off any other, player that might engage you for those early game eliminations. People are hungry during that time. This is usually like the most chaotic part of the game due to the fact that you and your opponents can be caught unarmed and without building materials, right? Word of advice: if you land first, land near some loot. All right, the mid game is where things kind of calm down for a bit. You won't really encounter as many players as you did during the early game, and you're gonna find that a number of players are gonna keep dropping down as well. Use this time to stay ahead of the storm circle and just gather up building materials and just better weapons. This is really the time where you're gonna prepare for the late game. So keep in mind that you're gonna want to seek out at least some fights during this time. In competitive game modes and tournaments, you're gonna encounter storm surge. All right, so storm surge occurs when there are too many players on the map during certain intervals. If you haven't dealt any damage in a while, then you might start seeing your health just kind of trickle away. Remember, all you need to do to stop this from happening is just really just deal enough damage to just get you out of, the list of least active players. You don't even need to get the elimination. So the late game is all about building and editing and just keeping the high ground. So if you're playing casual Fortnite, the match might end before the building even begins. But in competitive, players are going to start trying to get the high ground on each other by building towers and just keeping an eye on their opponents. You're no longer going to get the benefit of chest or harvesting too many materials from natural structures. So if you guys want to replenish your ammo and match, you're going to need to get kills. Most importantly, once the circle gets small enough, it's going to begin to move, forcing you to keep up with it by building paths that you can walk across. To practice for this, many players try zone wars, which can be found on creative. It's smaller maps, but the concept is the same, and it really helps you develop a feel for the stage of the game without having to play through the whole match to get there. So the last thing you need to learn about competitive mode is what to expect. Arena is the key to mastering comp, right? Here, and I mean like right here, every player is working towards the same goal, so skill levels are gonna be cranked up, and they're gonna be playing with the competitive loot pool. Earn arena points, man, by just getting eliminations, getting high placements, and getting that victory royale. Your goal is Champions League, and reaching this rank is gonna qualify you for more lucrative events. This should be your goal at the start of each season. So just keep an eye out, on the calendar, and just start training right away, all right? Most players really start off as solo players, but if you want to participate in as many events as possible, you're going to need to find a duo or a trio. Having teammates, that you can really work well with is just great for training, but it's also going to help you learn important skills such as comms and just playing different roles and fighting as one.